You know what? Anyone silly enough to pay this sort of money, I have zero sympathy for, so whatever.
You've stolen my thunder. Exactly my thoughts. If you are stupid enough to have bought a ticket to sit with that woman for whatever length of time, then suck it up, princess.
The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
They think somehow that Australians are a little naive, a little easy to skin as far as flogging her as ever merchandise. I think she thinks we're, hicks down under that won't see through it all and be just so honoured that she's graced us with her spreads.
Australia didn't boo Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and that silence carried more weight than any loud reaction ever could. What people aren't openly saying is simple. Australia didn't respond emotionally, it responded logically. People watched, compared, and made up their minds without making a scene.
And it was billed as a women's retreat weekend where you'll meet other women and have so many activities and drink by the pool and spend time with the Duchess of Sussex. Well, turns out she showed up for about 30 minutes and then she split immediately. They were then shacked up with strangers. They paid thousands of dollars for this dumb thing. And needless to say, a lot of them are now furious. So much so that they're demanding refund.
A Roy Morgan research poll of around 1,700 Australians came out late last week, and the numbers are hard to ignore. About 81% said their opinion didn't improve during the tour, and 75% felt Meghan didn't show a more positive side. That doesn't signal outrage, it signals distance. It goes even further. 87% said they doubted the trip helped repair Harry's relationship with his father. So whatever message the tour was meant to send, it didn't translate in a meaningful way. This isn't Backlash. Backlash is loud, visible, emotional. It shows up in protests, headlines, and heated debates. What happened here is different.
Everyone thought that she was going to be there for the weekend. She wasn't. But also, apparently only around 119 people were there. Instead of the 300 that were in, there were 300 tickets. Sold out. Which also is hilarious because Gemma, up on the Besties Instagram had put up, we still have rooms left. Only a few. Right before, and of course, Meghan's people call her like, take that down. And so it was taken down, but not before I got a screenshot.
It's quiet, measured, and harder to push against. It feels like a calm rejection, a sense that people simply aren't interested. For public figures who rely on connection and relatability, that kind of response can hit harder than direct criticism. By the end of the 4-day tour, the numbers supported that impression. The retreat didn't sell out. The Inner Edge Summit reduced ticket prices by half before Harry appeared. That kind of adjustment usually points to weaker demand than expected. At the same time, a comparison started getting attention.
Another source says a friend of mine is absolutely furious. She paid all that money and was promised a whole weekend full of fun, food, drinks, activities, only to find out Meghan stayed for 30 minutes. The guest was reportedly left confused as to what's happening and with expectations on far more access to the Duchess throughout the weekend.
While Meghan's Sydney event struggled with attendance, Pamela Anderson was hosting an event across the city. Her team had quietly reduced capacity from 9,000 seats to 2,500, but the event still maintained strong engagement. Same weekend, same city, similar audience, very different outcomes. Everything discussed here comes from publicly available information. Polls, ticket sales data, media reports, and even messages attributed to event organizers have all been circulating.
How many people did attend? It's Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. How could Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, drive this small crowd? I'm pretty sure that not every seat was full.
Together, these details create a broader picture that's difficult to dismiss. This is where it becomes more complicated for the Sussex team. Media criticism can be ignored or labeled unfair. Coverage can be challenged and editorials dismissed as bias. But data is harder to argue with. A polling sample of 1,700 people reflects a measurable trend. A venue reducing ticket prices suggests demand issues. Reports of last-minute outreach to fill seats point to pressure behind the scenes.
Some tables have only 3 people at them and some have 4. This was a massive fail. And you see, this was not Meghan talking, but this was the same attendees. They paid for the whole thing. They were not only to watch Meghan talk about her dishwasher soap story. I'm pretty sure that Meghan talked about that.
These are not just opinions. They are data points. And when combined, they begin to form a consistent narrative. One built gradually through observable facts rather than speculation. The retreat itself was presented as a solution, Around 300 tickets were offered, priced at 2,699 Australian dollars for standard access.
We have this video comparison between 2018 and 2026, and here you can see the big difference between the two. You have actual crowds, you had actual expectation, people. There was a lot of energy back then that is undeniable compared to what is this? Yeah, it is sad.
And 3,199 for VIP, which included a private room instead of shared accommodation. It was hosted at the Intercontinental Sydney Coogee Beach and promoted as a full experience. 2 nights, a gala dinner, wellness sessions like yoga and sound healing, coaching opportunities, and a featured in-person conversation with Meghan during the Friday night gala.
So if you're an online psychotic sycophant of Meghan, you're more than welcome to come. But if you're a professional woman that happens to work in a media career, no, sorry, we'll take your money, then we'll kick you out. It's honestly, this has just got disaster written all over it.
Early media coverage framed it as a high-profile, almost exclusive moment. What reportedly happened during the event appears more limited. Meghan arrived at the hotel shortly after 5 p.m. on Friday and participated in a Q&A session with organizer Gemma O'Neill that lasted about 2 hours. Shortly after 7 p.m., Meghan Markle left in a Range Rover to attend a rugby match with Prince Harry. At the same time, guests who had paid for the retreat were already moving through the evening schedule without her there.
But it's all me, 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 me. It's incredibly intensely boring.
And not worth $1.
By Sunday morning, early reports started circulating online. 2 anonymous insiders claimed organizers owe answers and hinted that some attendees were already questioning the value of what they paid for, with a few even considering refunds. One comment said a guest paid a high price expecting a full weekend of activities, food, and experiences, but ended up seeing Meghan for only a short appearance. Reactions like that point to more than simple disappointment. They suggest a disconnect between what people thought they were getting and what actually happened. It's important to stay accurate here. No confirmed attendee has gone on record on camera demanding a refund.
This was terrible. What is this? Is this Meghan and Harry in the middle of what? Nothing. This is not AI. This is no people in here waiting for them. No crowds. They have these barriers, like they were expecting, I don't know, hundreds of people to flood the streets of Sydney and be excited about, oh, you know, there's gonna be the sausages in there, but no, nothing of the sort.
That matters. But the documented details still tell a story that raises questions. There was a retreat that didn't sell out. There was also a situation involving Ariana Packey from 7 News, who was reportedly removed from the guest list after organizers became aware of her role in the media. At the same time, a spokesperson for the Sussexes told the Press Association that Meghan was only ever confirmed to attend for her Q&A portion of the weekend. That detail stands out. If the agreement was strictly for a 2-hour Q&A, then technically, the commitment was met. No contract broken, no formal issue raised. But the way the event was presented publicly feels different. The marketing pushed the idea of a full weekend experience. Something immersive, something more personal. That gap between expectation and delivery is where public perception starts to shift. The comparison some people make is telling. Large-scale events are remembered for the full experience, not just a single appearance.
I'm so disgusted by this. Not only is it monetizing this, but it's just so crass to release this on your shopping site of, look at me giggling.
People expect time, energy, and presence to match the promise. Here, the atmosphere seemed different. Guests arrived expecting access, interaction, maybe even a sense of connection. When the main moment passed quickly, what remained didn't carry the same weight. The experience didn't expand. It felt brief, then there's another moment that adds a more serious layer to the situation. On Friday morning, just hours before other scheduled appearances, Harry and Meghan visited Bondi Beach. They met with survivors of a recent violent attack that had deeply affected the local community.
The same thing happening at Bondi, which I just find so revolting. I can barely find words to describe it.
The visit was widely seen as respectful and in line with public expectations for that kind of engagement. Meghan spoke directly with survivors, including Jessica Chapnick-Kahn and Elon Zier, both of whom later shared positive feedback about the interaction. Up to that point, everything followed the tone expected from a public visit of that nature. What happened afterward is where things became more complicated.
How is someone who does these horrible things allowed to be put in these positions to help her uplift herself or her brand and to sell clothing nonetheless? It makes absolutely no sense to me how this is even able to happen. It is a grift of proportions that is mind-boggling to me.
Within hours of leaving the beach, details about Meghan's outfit began appearing online. A blue and white striped shirt, tailored jeans, a sweater, trainers, and a suede bag. These items were featured on ShopMine, a platform she had reportedly joined as an investor just days earlier on April 14th. That timing raised questions for some observers, especially about how moments of public engagement and commercial visibility were overlapping. The image used to promote those items wasn't random. It came straight from that same visit. Meghan Markle at Bondi Beach, meeting first responders and survivors. That specific choice caught attention almost immediately.
They need $3 million just to survive each year, just to meet their minimum security needs. So I really think we can't frame this in any other way other than a pay for play, a desperate, grab for cash. And I think that just comes down to it, that they really need the bucks.
Tom Sykes, writing on his Substack The Royalist, addressed it later that evening. His tone was direct and left little room for interpretation. Not long after, the Daily Beast published its own coverage, questioning the decision in a headline that echoed the same concern. Sykes wrote that selling the clothes off her own back at the site of a massacre might come easily to Meghan. I find this sickening. That line alone pushed the story further into the spotlight. The reaction didn't stop there. Richard Palmer described it as one of the clearest examples yet of attempts to commercialize a public image.
I left my favorite video for the end. There's Harry and Meghan walking. They have some DHL surf rescue dudes around them. There's police guarding them because security, of course, if anything that could happen.
On Fox News, commentator Kinsey Schofield used unusually strong language calling Meghan vile, a term she hadn't publicly used before in this context. Then, quietly, something shifted. Sometime overnight, the original Bondi Beach image disappeared from the platform. It was replaced with a different photo, Meghan wearing the exact same outfit, but this time stepping out of a Range Rover. Same clothes, different setting, no visible connection to the earlier visit. That sequence stands out. A visit in the morning.
Oh, bro, I have to play this. To this girl on the sand, and this lady couldn't give a single F about Meghan and Harry. 0 F's given. Not one F given. No, that was brutal. All of this.
A product-linked image using that exact moment shortly after, then a silent change hours later. The timeline feels precise. An affiliate listing goes live. Coverage appears later in the evening. Then overnight, the image is swapped. That doesn't look random. It looks like a careful edit. And when something is adjusted that specifically, it usually means someone behind the scenes understood how the original might be received. The explanation that followed attempted to shift responsibility. A statement suggested that AI had selected the wrong preview image. But that raises a bigger question.
Not really even, I think, hiding it. I mean, I think, the level of delusion, it's actually frightening. It's frightening. When your entire entourage of bodyguards and security is leading you across a beach in Australia, and there is an immovable woman in a bathing suit laying on her belly, reading a book or journaling or whatever, and she barely lifts her head to see this chaos and goes right back down to her business. That says you are irrelevant.
Automated systems don't typically log in during the night and manually replace specific images. That kind of action points more toward human decision-making than software error. It starts to look less like a simple mistake and more like a response after attention began building. Articles can be managed, headlines move on. But something else came out of that day that was harder to control: a short video. At some point Friday afternoon, between the beach visit and the rugby match, Harry and Meghan were walking along Bondi Beach with their security team. The setting was wide open, long stretches of sand, very few people around, plenty of space, and right in the middle of that space, there was one woman lying on a towel reading a book. She didn't look up, not when the group approached, not when Prince Harry walked past, not when Meghan passed by. She stayed exactly where she was, focused on her book for the entire clip. No reaction, no acknowledgement. That moment was captured and posted by news.com.au on TikTok. Later that day, the clip quickly gained traction, reaching around 1.3 million views.
When you arrive for your walkabout in Sydney to nobody there, so it's not a walkabout anymore, it's if a tree falls. If that is what you consider a resounding success and the expression and outpouring of love and support for you, I love this for her. I love it for Meghan.
From there, it spread across multiple outlets, including Yahoo News, Daily Mail, International Business Times, and Deseret News. Within a day, Australian broadcasters were also covering it. The captions added another layer to the moment. Some called the woman the unbothered queen. Others simply labeled her a legend. The tone wasn't aggressive or openly critical. If anything, it leaned more toward quiet amusement, even a bit of admiration. And that's what made the moment stand out. Watching the clip closely, there's a small detail people keep pointing out around the 7-second mark. A security guard's shadow passes directly over the woman's towel. Even then, she doesn't react. No movement, no glance, no shift in focus, just steady attention on her book. That level of indifference is rare, especially in footage involving well-known public figures during visits meant to draw attention.
These two are literally living a fantasy now. There's no royal visit. They don't even have a charity. This is all just a private money-making tour.
For comparison, there's another moment from the same tour that adds context. A BBC Vox Pop interview in Melbourne featured a local resident, Andrew Bridge. When asked about the visit outside the Royal Children's Hospital, he responded on camera, "I wasn't aware they were coming at all. They are very much about self-promotion. They would probably be my least favorite royals." When asked if he would go out of his way to see them, his answer was simple: no. That reaction feels very different from what was seen during the 2018 Royal Tour of Australia. Back then, crowds showed up in large numbers. People stood in the rain in places like Dubbo. Others waited near the Sydney Opera House just to catch a glimpse. The excitement wasn't subtle. It was everywhere.
My source, who works within the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, has revealed that when Meghan arrived, she said, "Let's make this quick." And as my source told me, such a humanitarian, not then the acting started. Acting of her pretending to care.
8 years later, the atmosphere looks different. The country itself hasn't changed in any major way. Public interest in major events is still there. What seems to have shifted is how this particular visit was received. Moments like the woman on the beach and comments from people like the Melbourne passerby point in the same direction. Not anger, not protest, just a noticeable lack of engagement. And that shift connects to another area that has been carefully shaped over time: public image. During the first day in Melbourne at the Royal Children's Hospital, a cameraman captured a brief moment. Only a few seconds long, but the kind of clip that gets replayed and closely examined. Meghan's chief of staff, Sarah Smo, reached over and lightly tapped Prince Harry on the back, guiding him toward a waiting family. It looked routine, almost easy to miss. But then Meghan turned her head. The expression caught on camera quickly became a talking point. Some outlets described it using a very specific phrase: a death stare. The clip didn't stay under the radar for long. The Daily Beast, referencing commentary from Tom Sykes and discussions from his royal podcast, reported that the footage sparked strong reactions from former staff members. According to those anonymous sources, the look wasn't unfamiliar.
The report that she stayed only 2 hours at that $3,000 per head. And Harry, he spoke at an event, mental health, $1,000 a head. Yeah. I mean, who are these people who are still paying this amount of money? These two are laughing at them.
They suggested it reflected something they had experienced during their time working closely with her. Of course, reading body language is subjective. People interpret expressions differently depending on context. But when multiple former employees describe similar patterns, it starts to feel more consistent. It becomes less about one short clip and more about a broader impression forming over time. Earlier in the week, Meghan appeared to respond to growing criticism, at least indirectly. Yahoo Lifestyle Australia ran a headline: Meghan Markle hits back at criticism for leaving $2,700 per person Sydney event after 2 hours. The response stayed consistent with the earlier statement given to the Press Association, that Meghan Markle was contracted specifically for the Q&A session and that obligation was completed. From a technical standpoint, that explanation holds. A contract sets clear boundaries. If the agreement only covered a Q&A appearance, then the requirement was met.
Well, like all narcissists, true malignant narcissists, they never admit that they're wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always the rest of the world doesn't understand them, or it's why Meghan's constantly reintroducing herself to us and like telling us her story over and over, because she thinks that this time is the one that'll stick and we will all change our minds and come to realize how wonderful she is and that she should be the Queen of England.
But the broader expectation didn't come from the contract. It came from how the event was presented. Promotional material pushed the idea of a full weekend experience, something more involved than a short appearance. That gap between what was agreed and what people expected is where most of the criticism begins. Then another layer of commentary entered the conversation. Jane Moore, writing for The Sun, published a column with a headline that caught attention: "Milking their Duke and Duchess titles for all they're worth." In it, she referred to the couple as the Montecito grifters and argued that their recent tour looked similar to a traditional royal tour in structure, but not in purpose. Her conclusion suggested that their titles were being used in a commercial way that continues to raise questions.
They are using us as a cash machine. This is just a cash grab. They want to bring whatever it is that they bring. And look at it, they are no longer royal adjacent. They are not qualified psychologists. And as far as we can see, they aren't even the philanthropists they attest to be, because we haven't seen any donation.
Traditionally, a royal tour ends with a very specific image. A couple boards a plane, waves to the press, smiles for cameras, and closes the visit with a clear sense of ceremony. This time, the ending looked different. Prince Harry and Meghan boarded a Qantas commercial flight. There was no formal send-off, no large press presence, and no farewell editorial from the Sydney Morning Herald marking the end in a celebratory tone. In fact, the publication had already taken a position earlier in the week. One editorial framed the situation in direct terms, suggesting Australia was being treated more like a resource than a partner. The timing adds another contrast. Just days later, King Charles III is scheduled to travel to Washington, D.C. for a state visit. It marks the first such visit by a reigning British monarch to the United States since Queen Elizabeth II visited in 2007. He is expected to address a joint session of Congress on the 28th, following an invitation supported by Mike Johnson, John Thune, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries. It will be the first time a British monarch addresses Congress in this format since 1991. That's what a traditional working royal visit looks like in 2026, structured, formal, and focused on state-level engagement. Placed next to that, the Australia tour tells a very different story.
I think it's formed in concrete now. I don't think he's capable of pivoting. I think he and his wife truly see the world through the lens of victimhood. I think they love it. I think they love being martyrs. I don't understand what you think is appealing about moaning when you live in a mansion that has 14 bathrooms worth $14 million. Harry, so per this source that feels the quasi-royal life is great for him, even though he says in Australia, I hated being a royal and it killed my mother. Well, which is it? It can't be both. And then Meghan, it's the utter thumping boredom of the narcissist.
Within just a few days, there was a retreat that didn't reach expected attendance, a fashion-related affiliate image that was quietly replaced after criticism, and a Roy Morgan research poll showing that 81% of Australians said their opinion had not improved. Individually, each moment could be explained or debated, but together, they begin to form a pattern, one based not just on opinion, but on visible outcomes. And what stands out is that none of this required an official response from the royal family. The commentary has already come from multiple directions. The Sydney Morning Herald framed it one way. Jane Moore offered another perspective. Tom Sykes added his analysis. The Roy Morgan research data reflected public sentiment. Andrew Bridge summed up his view in a Short Street interview. And then there was that quiet moment on Bondi Beach. One person lying on a towel saying nothing at all, yet still becoming part of the bigger picture before anything else could even be said. It's worth looking closely at where all of this is coming from. The sources aren't random, and they're not coming from just one direction. The Sydney Morning Herald published an editorial describing the situation as transactional. BBC captured street-level reactions in Melbourne. Roy Morgan Research conducted polling that measured public opinion. These are established institutions, each adding a piece to the overall picture.
Weren't happy, or Meghan, I would say this is her rather than Harry, was never going to be happy with just being a side character, a supporting actress, if you like, to use the analogy from her previous life, to Catherine. She was always going to want to be the leading actress in the drama of the royal family. Her ambition is such that she couldn't compromise, Angela. And as you will know, being an Australian and watching the royal family, being part of that gilded cage, living within that life, does require some compromise on your own personal ambitions, doesn't it? That's what she got wrong.
That's absolutely right. And it requires teamwork. It requires understanding the institution of the monarchy. And, you know, it's just ridiculous of her to have said that she didn't understand what she was getting into. She was massively supported, much more supported than Diana was back.
The goal here isn't to take sides, but to place those pieces together and ask a simple question. What does it mean when a PR tour doesn't meet its own expectations? Not media expectations, not public guesses, but the goals it appeared to set for itself. The outcome shows up across everything already discussed. The numbers, the attendance, the reactions, and even the adjustments made along the way. That leads to a bigger question, and it's not whether the Sussex brand continues. Public figures and brands rarely disappear completely. They adjust, shift direction, and repackage over time. The real focus is value, how that brand is viewed the next time it enters a deal. What happens when a promoter considers hosting another event? What happens when a publisher reviews a new project proposal? Or when a high-priced wellness retreat expects demand to match its pricing? Those decisions are shaped less by headlines and more by results that can be measured. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle now operate in spaces like media, events, and partnerships, where data often carries more weight than narrative. In this case, Australia has already added its data point, and those numbers don't just fade away, they become reference points for future decisions. There's also another development starting to take shape. Andrew Loney is preparing a follow-up biography, reportedly scheduled for release in late May. His approach is known for being detailed and methodical, relying on archive material, formal requests, and long-term research instead of quick commentary. That sets him apart from writers like Tom Bauer, who focus more on fast-moving, narrative-driven accounts. Loney's work tends to build slowly, document by document, often pulling from sources that take months, sometimes longer, to access. When that kind of research is published, it usually adds a deeper layer to how events are understood. So the question shifts again. Was this tour a final judgment on its own, or just an early signal of a longer trend still developing? Public reaction can happen fast, with opinions forming in real time, but broader evaluations, especially those backed by detailed research, take longer to settle. In that sense, what's already happened may not be the conclusion. It may just be the starting point of a much longer assessment. Got something to say about this? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get into it. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Tap that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it.